This video is brought to you by AmerUSA.com, where you can screen tenants 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In this episode, we will be discussing New York landlord tenant laws. The following is a summary of landlord tenant laws in the state of New York as they apply to residential rental property. Topics include disclosures, withholding rent, the right to enter, security deposits, eviction, increasing rent, and more. Security deposit limit. New York State has no limit on security deposits for non-regulated units. However, New York City, among other jurisdictions with rent-controlled, rent-stabilized units, may have local caps imposed. Security deposit storage. New York State requires a security deposit to be kept separate from a landlord's personal assets, but the statute does not require the deposit to be made in a financial institution unless the landlord owns a residential building consisting of at least 6 units. These landlords must then use a financial institution physically located somewhere in the state of New York. Deadline for returning a security deposit. The security deposit must be returned within a reasonable time, usually within 30 days after the tenant has vacated and returned the keys. Security deposit interest. Non-regulated residential buildings of 6 units or more require interest to be paid to tenants either in the form of a credit off the monthly rent, an annual payment, or one lump sum at the end of tenancy. It's up to the tenant to choose. Late fees. The collection of late fees must be addressed in the lease agreement and comply with local tenancy legislation in order to be enforceable. Increasing rent. There is no state statute for raising rent in New York. Local jurisdictions with rent control or rent stabilization laws provide enforcement for their specific terms. For all areas not governed by rent control or stabilization, at least a 30-day notice must be given to increase a month-to-month tenancy. Lease agreements of a longer duration must detail any changes in rent, if there are to be any. Withholding rent. If a landlord breaches the warranty of habitability, the tenant may sue for a rent reduction. Alternatively, rent-regulated tenants can also file a rent reduction complaint with the Division of Housing and Community Renewal. But before filing such a complaint, the tenant must first notify the landlord about the problem in writing. A complaint may then be filed at least 10 days, but not more than 60 days, after giving the landlord notice. Terminating tenancy and eviction. An unconditional 30-day notice to quit may be used for tenants holding over on a month-to-month tenancy. Regulated units must allow 10 days, or as set by applicable rent regulation, to cure or quit any lease violation. Non-regulated unit violations are dictated by the provisions written into the lease regarding cure or quit notice periods. The right to enter. Although New York doesn't address a particular amount of time, a landlord should provide the tenant a reasonable notice of entry before being permitted inside the unit. For more information, additional laws and articles can be found at AmericanLandlord.com.